Hey, good afternoon. Excuse me, good morning. I've got to look at my clock first. So it is Thursday, the 23rd. I've got a new webcam, so excuse me if I have to make some adjustments here to get things lined up properly. Apparently, if you've been here before, you know my last webcam, I had a problem with it. It had a little green streak across the top, and the picture wasn't everything I hoped it would be. Hopefully, this one will be better. Anyway, here we are. So, news. What is in the news? Maybe some of you have seen it. I shared a clip, a video on my page about this issue. You've probably heard about it and seen it in other places. But the Southern Poverty Law Center, scumbags that they are, they have been indicted. Indicted, mind you, a jury of our peers, fellow Americans. This wasn't something that Donald Trump just sat down and said, hey, let's charge them with something. I'll get my DOJ to step up and make sure they get charged. We'll just put it out in the news that we found something. No. If you know how indictments work, if you know how juries work, and how these sort of things take place, you know that a jury of our peers sat down, heard evidence, saw evidence, and said, hey, these guys are guilty of this. They should be tried. So there you have it. They've been going to be tried for giving money to groups like the Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nations, and others, racist groups. Because many of you, I'm sure, as I do, remember when people like Bayne and Kamala and others were telling us that the biggest threat to black people in this country is white supremacist violence. Anybody else remember that? I remember it. And of course, if you want to, if you're on the left, if you're a liberal, if you're woke, I'm sure you're not going to bother to. And even if you did take the time, you're going, they just made that up. That's AI. That's not real. You can still find the videos of the speeches and the presentations being made by these people and hear them saying those things. You know, systemic racism, white supremacist racism. The biggest threat to black people in this country is white supremacist violence. You've been there, you've heard it, you've seen it. I suppose, knowing how lazy the average American is intellectually, you're not going to bother to look this stuff up. I could have, and I could make a list of all this stuff for you, but frankly, no. I'm getting tired of doing other people's work for them. If you don't want to know, then fuck you. There you go. You can continue to be stupid and ignorant if you want to be. That's entirely up to you. I'm not going to try to keep changing that. I'm simply here to offer my opinion on something. And if you like it, fine. If you don't, whatever. It's not going to change what I do for the rest of the day. Anyway, so the biggest threat to black America is white supremacist violence. Now, take the time, look it up. It's out there. It's easy to find. A few clicks of the mouse, you're there. Statistics on black crime. Who kills most of the black people in this country? Who murders them? Other black people. It's not that hard to find, folks. It's out there. You know it's out there. Even those of you on the left who want to continue to believe the leftist woke bullshit, even you know better. You know what's going on. But let's talk about this particular issue with the SPLC. Now, you and I both know that if white people, if the KKK or some other racist organization were out here in the streets killing black people, it would be on the news 24/7. But let's look at what's really going on. Even now, as I sit here talking to you, even today, all the left can report on and talk about is Charlottesville. How many years ago? How long has that been? But we keep going back to that. It's like a January 7 kind of thing, excuse me, January 6 sort of thing, where if we're going to point out people rioting against the United States and trying to overthrow the U.S. government, we got to go back to January 6th. That's the only time that's ever happened. That's the only time riots have ever occurred. That's the only time violence has ever happened. And it's the same thing with this. Charlottesville. Isn't it funny, though? Now we find out that the reason Charlottesville happened is because the Southern Poverty Law Center paid for it to happen. Come on, guys. At some point, lefties, you're going to have to wake up and see what's going on right in front of you. And if you've got any balls at all, if honesty and forthrightness means anything at all in your world, you're going to have to accept and acknowledge that you've been played. I mean, guys, it's time to wake up. It's time to understand you're being used. You're a bunch of what are called useful idiots. Excuse me a second. Hang this up. You're just useful idiots. You're allowing yourselves to be played. And you obviously don't seem to care, because as long as your team is winning, as long as the agenda that you like is being advanced, how we got there, the lies that had to be told to make that happen, it doesn't matter to you. You don't care. So now we see that SPLC is funding this madness. Again, I will ask, when you see the news, just one example, just one national example, coming out of Chicago this weekend, when you see how many black people are killed, wounded, shot in Chicago, Illinois, United States of America, this past weekend, is that the KKK? Is that some racist organization doing that? Or, as FBI and other crime statistics show, is that just other black people killing their fellow black people? I mean, look, you can hate me if you want, call me whatever names you want, call me the world's biggest racist. I don't care, because the people that know me know better. But there it is. It's all bullshit. It has been bullshit, and you continue to allow the bullshit. All right? And it ain't the KKK riding through Chicago on their motorcycles or in their pickup trucks with their Confederate flags fluttering through the breeze, shooting black folks. Here in Richmond, Virginia, where I live, every time the news comes on, there's another killing in Gilpin Court or in Richmond's South Side in the quote-unquote black neighborhoods. And without knowing any more about the story than that, the first question you should ask yourself is, well, now, if that's I'll just use Gilpin Court as an example. If that murder was in Gilpin Court, What white man drove down there to do that? I mean, seriously, is he so racist and hates black people so much he was willing to drive into the lion's den, for lack of a better term, and kill a black man surrounded by other black men? Now, it's seriously, you got to ask yourself, is he that insane? Does he hate black people that much? Or is it more likely that it was a fellow black man, another black man who decided, I'm mad at this guy. This guy disrespected me. He stepped on my brand new Nikes. Pick a reason. We've all seen these reasons in the past that you and I look at and listen to, and we think, well, that's stupid. That's a dumb reason to kill somebody. But it's there. It's happened. And all you got to do is look up crime statistics. Look it up. Take your time. If you've got the time to sit there and type your screeds and make your videos about how evil the white man is and how racist American society writ large is, don't you have the time to do further research, don't you? And discover that, in fact, more black people are killed by other black people, robbed by other black people, than they are by white people. And yes, there are some cross-racial murders, white versus black versus white. But let's look at the vast majority of the numbers. And now we see part of the problem is yet one more group that you on the left seem to love, because they point out for you, they do the work for you so you don't have to, and tell you, well, that group's racist and that group's racist and this group over here is racist and you shouldn't like this group and this group is hateful. So they do all the work for you and you love them. And you probably gave them money. And they gave that money to a hate group to go out here and commit hate crimes. But again, I ask, if the Ku Klux Klan, if the Aryan Nations, if some other hate group is out here committing all these crimes and doing all this evil, why are we not seeing it on the evening news? Because you know how much the evening news loves to report anything, no matter how minor, no matter how insignificant, that can be passed off as just another example of white racism. They will jump on that like a dog on a steak. They love to report that stuff. And yet, just using here in Richmond as an example, since I live here and I see the news pretty much every day, how come we're not seeing that here? How come we're not seeing the news just falling all over themselves, trying to tell us about, oh, another white guy killed another black guy. And he was riding through town in his big Chevy pickup truck with a huge Confederate flag flying out the back. And he had his white hood on, and he was just riding around throwing lead down range, shooting any black man he saw. You know damn well they'd be all over that. They'd cover that endlessly. You'd never stop hearing about it. And yet when it comes to this systemic racism, this never-ending white supremacist violence bullshit we hear all the time, it's always back to Charlottesville. Well, when was Charlottesville again? Was it 10 years or more ago? Jesse Smollett, anybody remember him? Racism is so rife in this country. There's so much of it. You just can't get away from it. He had to make shit up. And of course, you were falling all over yourselves believing that because you wanted to believe it. Facts be damned. We're not going to talk about what really happened. We're not going to talk about the facts of the case. We're not going to talk about all the discrepancies in the story. I want to believe that. I want it to be true. So just think about all the quote-unquote racist incidents that you've seen in the news over the past several years and ask yourself, I wonder how many of those were paid for by the SPLC. But you're not going to let it go, are you? You're going to keep pushing that narrative. It's like the post I made recently, the lady giving CPR to the dead body, and the dead body is in fact racism. And the lady saying, don't you die on me, you son of a bitch. I need you. We need to keep pushing that narrative. You want racism to be bad. You want it out there. You can't live without it because everything you believe in, leftists, depends on pushing the narrative that white supremacist violence is everywhere. Well, I'm going to have to disappoint you. I know a lot of white people here in the Richmond area, in other states and other counties in Virginia, all up and down the East Coast. I used to do Civil War reenacting. Remember? Some of you do. Many of you may not know that yet. I was a Civil War reenactor. I wore the Confederate gray. I met a lot of people doing that hobby. You know what I never did meet? I never met a Klansman. I never met anyone who said, oh, we got to go out here and string us up a few Negroes. Never met those people. Now, you would think, wouldn't you, with all the traveling I did, with all the events I went to, with all the different states I was in, somewhere along the line, I would have met one of those people. I mean, just odds being what they are, numbers being what they are, you'd think I would have met someone. What I did meet, especially from those of us who portrayed the Southern soldier of the American Civil War, what I did meet was people who said, screw the KKK. Screw those people. We don't like them. We don't want to have anything to do with them. We don't want them. They don't represent us. We don't want to be around those people. And especially when it comes to flying the Confederate battle flag. We hated to see that from some of these groups. We hated that was associated with modern racism because it didn't help our cause, certainly. So if you wanted to find some white people who did not like the KKK, who did not like the Aryan nations, who did not want to see this kind of bullshit pushed out here into the public, you needed to hang out with me and my friends who were doing reenacting. So when I see this crap, it makes me angry for a lot of different reasons, but not the least of which is the fact that so many of you, and when I say you, I mean you leftists, you Democrats, you liberals, you believe it so badly, you want to believe it so badly, and yet you won't look at the facts that are going on around you, the information that is out here in the ether that can so easily refute the bullshit that you believe. And again, I point to the news. If the white racist groups that we know of, like the KKK, were out here doing this racist stuff in mass on the regular, don't you think you'd see more of it in the news? Don't you think somebody would be covering this a little more? I mean, go back to Charlottesville. We have to go back to Charlottesville because that's the last time we saw anything of this nature. And if Charlottesville made you mad, then I will ask you, are you mad at the SPLC? And if you're not, why not? They paid for it. They pushed it. They asked for that narrative. They asked for that to happen. They gave money to people to see to it that it happened. But you don't want to think about it, do you? No. That shoots holes in my narrative. And I can't stand that. We're not going to stand by and just let that happen. So the hate continues. The bullshit continues because you don't call it out for what it is. Now, those of us on the right, those of us in the middle, those of us who think for ourselves, we know how we get labeled by you people. And when I say you people, you know good and damn well what I mean. Lefties, woke. How dare we don't dare question the narrative, because if we do, then we're racist. And we know that far too many Americans are scared to death. Excuse me. Are scared to death to be labeled and called a racist or some other phobic, or pick a name that the left loves to throw around. Well, I'm not scared about it. It doesn't bother me because I know the truth. And I know that the people who know me, the people who I care about, know better. So you keep believing whatever makes your life easier for you. The information's out there. The narratives that you glom onto so quickly can easily be disproven, but you don't want to do that. It scares you to think that you might be wrong, and heaven forbid you admit that you were wrong about something. I admit when I was wrong. I'll tell you the most recent example. I just posted about it yesterday. I thought Virginians and Americans, especially those who call themselves conservatives, Republicans, right wing, whatever term you like to use, I thought they had more balls than they do. But we see what's happening here in Virginia. And we see that far too many of those on the quote unquote right just, they'll type things on the computer, they'll make videos, they'll make a speech, they may even make a sign and go march in a parade or something. But when it comes to actually standing up, when it comes to actually fighting, and I mean fight, I don't mean use harsh language. I mean fight for their rights and for freedom and for the Constitution on which our republic was founded. They talk a lot. Republican Party here in Virginia loves to talk. Got a lot of talk. We see in D.C., we see committee hearings all the time so they can make really cool speeches and make new videos for fundraising for the next election. But Republicans aren't doing anything. All they do is talk. Talk now is, the midterms. Oh, we got to get out here. We got to do something about the midterms. We can't afford to lose the midterms, blah, blah, blah. What are they doing? Do you have any decent candidates Republicans? Anybody worth voting for? Rather than doing like the Democrats do, and everything they do is based on voting against Trump. They got no one to vote for, no one that's positive, no one that's got good ideas on how to improve liberty and freedom and make America a better place. Everything is, we hate Trump, we want to vote against Trump. Well, I don't vote just to vote against somebody. I want to vote for somebody. I want someone who has a positive message and who is willing to stand behind and push to make that message happen. I'm not seeing that. If you know of anybody, Republicans, anybody, independents in the middle, libertarians, whatever, if you know of anybody worth voting for, would you please post it in the comments section? Let me know. I'd love to find out. But here in Virginia, I'm not seeing it. The Republican Party of Virginia are a bunch of spineless cowards. All they know how to do is talk. And that's all you see from them, is talk. In the meantime, the news gets splashed with anything that the mainstream media deems racist or worthy of news coverage. Here in Richmond, we see it from NBC 12 on your side and ABC and the other local news channels. But what you don't see is this mass of systemic racism that the SPLC and others tell us is the biggest threat to Black America, overlooking the fact that every murder we've seen here in Richmond, for example, over the past 6 months has been Black on Black crime. I haven't seen one incident, not one news story yet about, that white guy from Amelia County. We know, a bunch of rednecks out in Amelia, they don't like black folks. They're just going to ride into Richmond, find a black neighborhood, and start shooting black people because they're a bunch of racists. Not seeing it happen. But if you listen to the news on a regular basis, if you listen to the activists, if you listen to the leftist politicians, you'd think that's all the problem is. You're certainly not going to hear them talking about Mr. and Mrs. Black America. Why are you killing each other? What's up with that? Explain it to me. Make it make sense. But that's what we're dealing with. So don't look for it to get any better. Don't look for things to change. Because in order for things to change, you're going to need people with courage, people with the balls to stand up and do something, people with the backbone and the fortitude to stand up and say, that's wrong. I'm not going to let that continue. We need to stop doing that. It's wrong. It's no more difficult than that. It's how I live my life. It's how I imagine many of you live yours. If it's wrong, don't do it. Doesn't matter what the grander picture is or who or how they're affected. Just don't do it. So there you have it. Just more bullshit that we have to deal with. And hopefully we'll see somebody from the SPLC actually go to jail. I'm sure the Republican Party is going to use it to make speeches and fundraise and do their usual bullshit. But we're going to have to count on not just the DOJ, because the DOJ can bring it to trial, but they're not the ones sitting on a jury. So we're going to have to hope there are enough staunch patriotic Americans out there who do care about the truth, who do care about doing the right thing, that they will say, the SPLC was wrong, they broke the law, and they need to pay for it. But you'll understand if I don't hold my breath while I'm waiting for that to happen. Have a good day.